Hello everyone, let's get started. My name is Tapio Pesola, I'm the Investor Relations Manager here at F-Secure, and I would like to warmly welcome you to our webcast today. With me today I have, as usual, our CEO Samu Konttinen, who will next run through the financials from the previous quarter. After his presentation there will be time for questions. So thanks for joining us, and now I give the floor to Samu.
Hello everyone, also from my perspective. So we'll be going through the report for the previous quarter. The agenda for the call, we will first briefly cover the key takeaways, then look at the numbers, talk a little bit about the business, about the industry, the market, and finishing off with the market guidance as usual. So first, our Q3 revenue grew by 6%. We were in particular happy how our newer product line in cybersecurity was performing, similarly as our cybersecurity services was performing. So that is really underscoring the ongoing transformation we are as a company transforming towards a comprehensive cybersecurity company compared to our past, as we've been really known as an endpoint security vendor. So today we carry a much broader portfolio of products beyond endpoint protection, and also carry selected cybersecurity services that are complementary to our products. And we believe that the packaging of both products and services is really something that is making F-Secure competitive and unique in the marketplace. So that really explains the transformation that we are driving from endpoint security a player as a starting point. Our B2B business grew by 11%, and as said already before, so it really was the new products and services, especially rapid detection service that really was witnessing a lot of good traction. Also, our cybersecurity services continued growing really fast. The demand for services such as incident response, forensics, red teaming is in high demand, and then we really continue witnessing a very strong growth there. And the last point as a key takeaway that explains the B2B performance, which is I think really significant, is that our ordering intake is growing clearly faster than the revenue growth. So and although ordering intake is something that we are not disclosing as a component, but this really talks about the sales performance, and as we are seeing more and more sales of the solutions like RDS that is targeted towards mid-market or enterprises, and as very often those customers either opt in for multi-year deals or they go to security as a service subscription business. So this further enhances the discrepancy between ordering intake and revenue. So our sales was performing far better versus what the actual revenue growth was. So in the multi-year deals, only a fraction of the deal value is recognized as a revenue, although all of that would show as an ordering intake and as an upfront payment. So I think that's really important to understand. And then moving on to consumer security, that was growing by 2%. So this is very well in line with our thinking. So same growth pace as was Q3, and we've, although not giving specific official guidance for either of these business segments, but this really follows our thinking as we've verbally commented our consumer security business outlook being like a low single-digit growth. So this really falls into that category very nicely. We are especially happy how our VPN and privacy product Freedom continues to perform, and also F-Secure Total, which is a commercial bundle of Freedom and Safe, our internet security product. So that is really also a product that is driving a good ARPU, clearly higher price points than the Freedom or Safe would carry standalone. And the operator channel that stands for a bigger part of our consumer business continues being flat and really according to our plans, whereas we are now highlighting that we are seeing some weakening of our operator channel, specifically in South America. But in a big picture, the operator channel is still flat, meaning that although weaknesses in South America, then other regions are making up for that dent. And here, if we look at we see the current latest quarter in numbers, and here we also see the numbers from the beginning of the year, so the first 3 quarters. And I think here you very clearly see that the B2B sales, if I take that first, so 11% growth, that for the running quarter or the previous quarter, that really was, I would say, in the lower end of our own expectations. Q2 in B2B was growing 22%, and back then we highlighted that 22% growth was perhaps on the upper end of our own expectations, and now this 11% being a lower end expectations. And if you look at the performance throughout the first 3 quarters, you see that year to date the growth is 16%, and I think this as a number better reflects what we believe or what we set ourselves as a target going this year. And consumer has been quite or very steady. Actually, we had a stronger quarter in consumer in the beginning of the year. So Q1, the consumer business grew 5%, and now the last 2 quarters 2%. And when we grew 5% with the consumer, we also verbally commented that the 5% growth in Q1 was definitely on the higher end of our own expectations. And now I think the consumer business is more normalized. So we see us tracking with the consumer business very close to market growth, whereas in corporate security we are outpacing the market, so growing faster than the market, winning market share. Operating profit, 3.3 million. This perhaps is similar, is definitely on the higher end of our own expectations, but it's not because we started to optimize for short-term profits. It's not because we started to slow down the investments. This is really because of the slower than anticipated hiring during Q3, and now we see that the hiring is again accelerating, and we continue with the investment case that we have definitely not optimizing for short-term profit, but investing for growth. And as we said in the beginning of the year, practically halving our profitability guidance for the year. So it's not something that is happening for F-Secure, but it's something that we make ourselves happen by choice of really prioritizing growth and investing for growth. And we also, for what comes to operating profit guidance for the whole year, we will be keeping our guidance unchanged. So very happy with the guidance and very well tracking to our plan on that aspect. And then I think we can move on to the next slide, and then I'll elaborate some of the numbers there furthermore. So now perhaps a bit of a helicopter view here. So here again, maybe looking really what is the tailwind behind the F-Secure business, what is the industry, what is the market conditions like. So really the key trends, I think they remain largely unchanged. So the companies are facing new regulation. This is pushing them to invest into their cyber capabilities. As an example, in Europe, the GDPR regulation is having many companies just ensuring that they are compliant with that regulation and having capability to detect and identify incidents and how do they respond to those incidents and so forth. So regulatory framework is definitely changing, and that is driving business for F-Secure. And perhaps the second key trend, a much bigger one than the first one, is really the fact that the cyber attacks are increasing both in volume and in complexity. And this is driving customers really needing to have a robust prevention in place. So the traditional prevention category products like endpoint protection, definitely rapidly increasing demand for capability to detect targeted attacks, those attacks that go in stealth mode, and being able to respond to those incidents quickly. We see a lot of demand for capabilities in vulnerability assessment. So companies really wanting to have that visibility and the capability to understand the vulnerability of their IT infrastructure. And then lastly, as these cyber attacks are really becoming so complex that more and more companies are taking a stance that there's no way of coping the threats by themselves. So this is driving a lot of demand for cybersecurity expertise in general. And now if you map all that to F-Secure portfolio, so really endpoint protection keeps meeting the mark, really offering a holistic and very top of class protection to our customers. Rapid detection service, this is our fastest growing product domain today, and really good traction there. And I'll talk a bit more about some cases that we landed during Q3. The F-Secure Radar is our product in vulnerability assessment, good growth there as well. And lastly, cybersecurity services that really is enjoying a lot of demand. And this industry, I think, has so much demand currently that it's almost like supply limited. So if we look at our Q4, we are practically sold out throughout the quarter. So really driving a maximum utilization with the consultancy team there. And now here in graphical terms, you see the F-Secure financial performance that also gives you a bit of a historical view. So you see that the consumer security has been very stable, and I think this is very well aligned with the market growth. And now with the B2B revenue there, previous quarter was 22% and now 11%. I think this gives a bit of an idea what is the range where we are operating, as we guided that 22 is perhaps an upper end of our own estimates, and now 11% on the lower end. And the more we have deals with the bigger companies, more we have these multi-year enterprise deals, we will be seeing further fluctuation from quarter to quarter within this B2B business, whereas consumer business we anticipate being very, very stable also going forward. And now deferred revenue. This is, I think, very, very important for F-Secure, with deferred revenue here growing faster than the revenue. So the total company revenue growth of 6%, now 11% as deferred revenue. This reflects the multi-year deals that we are making, the revenue that we are not recognizing during the reporting period, but the revenue that is made and the deals are in, and talks also about the cash flow, and I think sustainably now for several quarters we've seen that the deferred revenue is outpacing our revenue growth, and this underscores the fact that our sales is actually growing faster than what we can book as revenue. And here you see the profitability. So again, as highlighted, so we will be keeping the guidance for the year unchanged, and the 3.3 million EBIT for Q3. This was on the upper end of our own expectations, but really driven, you could almost say, by the wrong reasons. So the main impact there definitely is that the certain investments and hiring has been slower than anticipated. So it's not that we tried to optimize the profit, and as you see that our revenue growth was perhaps on the lower end of our own expectations. So the higher than anticipated revenue growth was not the reason for higher than anticipated EBIT. So it was really kind of some of the investments are now delayed. But as overall, we are really tracking according to our plans, and especially again emphasizing that the order intake is growing faster than the revenue in B2B, faster than the 11%. So we continue investing as we planned, and we will be seeing clearly bigger cost base also going for Q4. So we are not slowing down with our growth investments at all, and not optimizing the company for short-term profits, but really opting for growth. And now a bit more about the corporate security. So here we have a couple of components. We have then the product business, and then we have the cybersecurity services business. Within the product business, the first endpoint security, this is really the core, the deeply rooted DNA that we carry at F-Secure. This is an area where we saw softness during Q3, and this is really the reason why our B2B growth was at the lower end of our expectations. And really important for us is that it's not a generic trend that we see that would be impacting different customer segments or generic trends that we would be witnessing across all our geographies, but this is very isolated. We have some countries that continue performing really well and really outpacing the market growth, winning market share. There are many countries that are performing close to what was our aspiration, but then again, lastly, we have a handful of countries that are performing quite poorly at this stage, and this is something that we really need to fix, and a lot of activities and mitigating actions are already being activated on those countries. And I actually don't anticipate the countries that are experiencing a softer run now to bounce back already in Q4. So I foresee some of the countries continuing being rather weak with EBP performance also Q4. But for us, it's very important that the overall slight disappointment with our B2B sales in Q3 was really isolated around endpoint security, and furthermore to a handful of countries. We are not looking at a new trend that would be giving anticipation that we would need to be remodeling the business case around endpoint security. So we just need to fix those few countries, and we are back on the growth track that we planned. Very positive is the progress with Rapid Detection Service, RDS, and one of the highlights there is a really significant competitor replacement in Germany in financial sector. We are not allowed to disclose the name of the company, but any company operating in financial sector, we all know that those are really the most demanding customers. And secondly, that particular case was not a greenfield, but it was a competitor replacement. And I'm not naming the competitor, but it was really one of the best known cybersecurity companies. And what makes me specifically pleased about case like that is the fact that the customer really did a thorough evaluation and testing of the products. They had several different products lined up, and they ordered then a third party to pen test the company IT systems, and it was the F-Secure Rapid Detection Service that identified and detected that red teaming activity, whereas the competition didn't. So this is a great testimony to our product competitiveness, and we have high expectations for rapid detection service continuing growing really fast. And the last piece with the product business is F-Secure Radar within the vulnerability management. So we are continuing a rather good geographical expansion. So now we signed the first deals in Italy and India, and overall radar is now being sold in plus 10 countries. Whereas if you look at where we started this year, it was practically business predominantly in Finland and Denmark. So we've really been quite successful in geography expansion of F-Secure Radar. Then moving on to cybersecurity services. So a very strong growth continued there. We continue winning new customers. Many of the customers in the most demanding customer segments, such as finance and aviation, gaming, and so forth. So this continues to be looking really good for F-Secure. And additionally, we are very successfully expanding many of the long-term accounts that we've had in this line of business, and I think this talks about the trust that the customers have on F-Secure. Many often actually these bigger companies, they are not dependent on one company providing all the cybersecurity services for them. They often use more than one vendor, and when you manage to expand your business within your key accounts, it also shows that you are most probably winning a bigger share of wallet within these accounts. Today, this business is geographically wise quite limited for F-Secure, so vast majority of that business is coming from Denmark, Finland, and UK, and this is an area where we are constantly planning the next steps of market expansion in cybersecurity services, really looking how this business is adjacent with the product business and how they really complement each other. And this is something where I see that we have only just started really looking like how do we best offer turnkey solutions to our customers so that we go and package some of our award-winning products such as endpoint security or rapid detection service or radar, and how we package them together with cybersecurity services, as an example, incident response, forensics, and so forth. So I think there's a lot to be achieved at that front for F-Secure. Only a good start now. Then moving on to consumer. So this is very well in line with our own expectations, growing 2%. Overall, if I first look at the operator channel, so really positive there is that although the revenue growth in the operator channel is flat, but we see a very steady increase with our operational improvements. So really driving the product activations, take-up rates, and all these things, the key operational metrics within the operator community. So this really continues looking at very resilient and healthy, stable business for F-Secure going forward. And in direct business, within the consumer security business mix, this is an area where we are seeing a fast growth. So we are clearly growing much faster than the market is growing. And we've been very focused now for several quarters, so really focusing on efforts on the Nordics, and we really see that the focus is paying off. And it's really the F-Secure Safe, our internet security product, that is continuing to grow. We see the renewal rates improving, which is a testimony of the product quality and the customer relationship we have there. Freedom continues having a good tailwind. It's not yet a huge industry, but I see that the consumers are increasingly getting educated with the fact that once you are surfing online, there's not much privacy out there, so you are all the time being tracked and profiled, and more consumers are starting to take a stance that no, I would want to have some privacy, and that is definitely a phenomena and a thinking driving growth for Freedom. And also, as people are increasingly using insecure Wi-Fi networks, so that the fact that Freedom encrypts the traffic, so it gives you privacy and protection also in those use cases. So it really talks about how versatile and multi use case supporting offering Freedom really is. And then F-Secure Sense, the last thing here on the consumer business, our first consumer hardware product. So we've been very cautious with our revenue estimates for Sense, and therefore it's not really impacting F-Secure numbers much at all today. But it's tracking to our plans, and very important, I think, is that the media reviews that we continue getting for F-Secure Sense are very positive. And if I just mention some of them, like one of the most reputable reviewers in United States would be like Tom's Guide, and a couple of weeks back Tom's Guide published their review of F-Secure Sense, and we got a good score. I'm actually very happy with the score, 8 out of 10. It really highlighted the ease of use, the ease of installation, and many things where we focused with the product design. And now I think what makes me specifically proud about the F-Secure Sense and the reviews is that one of the competition, Symantec, they have a competing product to F-Secure Sense. They call it Core. So the Core was also evaluated by Tom's Guide, and they got 7 out of 10. So I think it's always a great thing if you, as a smaller company and as a challenger, you through these independent reviews, you saw that your teams did a better job with the product design, with the quality, with the capabilities and everything, than a company that is perhaps 10 to 20 times your size. So obviously something to be very proud of. And although our short-term expectations for top line here are very modest, this is a new category, but I think we are on the right thing here. So that the fact that the consumers are increasingly having connected devices at their homes, and increasingly there is vulnerabilities and attacks targeting those connected devices. So they need to be protected, and that's why I think that with F-Secure Sense we are definitely solving the right problem, and mid to long term this can be a great opportunity for F-Secure. Although short term we are keeping our estimates rather modest here. And really, I think as a summary perhaps is that this we are really seeing the company going through a transformation. So we have a lot of track record in endpoint protection, and then that's what the company has been known for tens of years. And if you look at our endpoint protection products, they really are top of class. We often come in the top 3 or as a winner in the independent tests for what comes to best protection. But going forward, we really want to be offering a much more comprehensive set of solutions and products to our business customers. So really expanding the services catalog, not only in the endpoint space, but also adding capabilities in detection and response, network sensors, vulnerability management. So many things, just making us a true cybersecurity player with also services on board that really are adjacent to products like forensics, incident response, red team, and so forth. And we continue investing in sales and product development in general, and really are driving the company with the growth agenda and not optimizing for short-term profits. Although we have wanted to keep the company clearly with the black numbers, keeping the company healthy, because once you go to red numbers, once you are loss making, I think you easily become much more fragile, and things get easily way more complicated. So we really wanted to show that you can drive growth, you can win market share, and you can do that while keeping the company healthy. You can do that while keeping the company profitable, although it's not the profits that we optimize for now short term. And this is the last piece here, and this is perhaps a bit centric to Finland, but something as a CEO to be very proud of, as in our space there is a lot of challenges with every company in IT sector. So how do you go and attract the best talent, and how are you perceived as an employer? And this was a survey done in Finland a couple of weeks back, and I'm really happy to see F-Secure scoring so high on this list. So we were seen as the fourth most favored employer in the country, and leaving behind many companies that I personally greatly admire, and companies that are really phenomenal superstars in their own domain. As an example, Supercell, which is perhaps the most successful gaming company in the world today, and similarly as Rovio, the company behind the Angry Birds. So I'm very happy to see that F-Secure is seen as an attractive employer on that list, and it's so important going forward, being able to really attract a great talent to join F-Secure. And closing off the session, we are keeping the profitability guidance unchanged, so from 8 to 12 million profitability for the year. That's it from my side.
Okay, thank you, someone. Now, if we have some questions on the lines, now would be the time to ask them. Okay, then thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to talking to you again next quarter.
Thank you, bye-bye.